Welcome to the Rational National podcast for Wednesday, February 24th. I'm David Dole. In this episode, I cover the Nevada caucuses, potential general election matchups, Super Tuesday, and a possible Supreme Court Justice nominee. These podcasts are recorded live on Periscope and then posted to soundcloud.com/therationalnational. Follow us on Twitter at TRNShow or at facebook.com/TRNShow. And of course, watch us on youtube.com/therationalnational. Thank you for listening and enjoy. So the Nevada caucuses. So last night, to no surprise, Trump won. And Rubio and Cruz still fighting over second place. At this point, the GOP is just kind of disillusioned that anything else may happen other than a Trump nomination, unless it really comes down to a one-on-one fight, which I don't see happening because Rubio and Cruz both think they can be that other guy. So, I mean, it's Cruz right now is leading in Texas. There's a good chance that he might win that state, but that's one state. And Rubio, I'm not sure what his chances right now are in Florida. That's his home state, but again, like, we're talking about one state here. Trump is running the field. he's got this, and I'll completely admit that I did not see this coming at all. I will claim that I did kind of predict Sanders' rise, though now that's kind of in question, at least by the media. We'll see. I'll get to that. But Trump, I just didn't see happening, and it's hilarious and kind of scary, but when you really think about it, he's not that much worse than anybody else. And in some ways, he's almost better. He still is open to funding Planned Parenthood, for example. Of course, he's against abortion like the rest of them, but he'll admit that Planned Parenthood does good things for women's health. So he's weird in that sense, where he's almost liberal on some issues. But overall, there's just that party, the Republican Party, is just way, way out there. And I really feel after this election, assuming Trump doesn't win, or even if he does win, it's going to be a complete implosion of that party and really what they're about, because they've been pulled so far right for so long that and far right, not just in terms of social issues, which is one issue, which is one problem, but also just in terms of corporate influence. All their politicians really are truly bought. I mean, Democrats are as well. There's no doubt about that, but to a lesser extent. And the Republican Party and the people that vote Republican are aware of this, and they're lashing out with support for Trump, and a lot of that support for Trump is really because he's not a bought politician. He funds his own campaign. He does take some money. I haven't really looked into whose money it is that he's using, but a lot of the money that he uses is his own, and he simply isn't bought by the same special interest that a lot of the other candidates are, and I think that's very appealing to a lot of these people. Also, I mean, the racism, that's got to be appealing to the racists as well, but polling after polling shows that a lot of people like Trump because he is not establishment. And Rubio's establishment. Cruz, there's a good argument to be made that he's not establishment. He is sort of anti-establishment, but Cruz is a weird guy. He's a very weird person. I don't get that guy's popularity whatsoever. He's a weird man. And then we can't forget about Kasich and Carson, because everyone else has. Kasich is the one guy who I feel would do best in a general election, and the polls also show that. He's right now beating Hillary Clinton head-to-head polls. I think he's up by like 7 points, something insane. But the party doesn't look like they're interested in electing him as or nominating him as the candidate. So that's kind of just it's going nowhere. And Carson, I don't know why Carson is still in this race. I guess he has people telling him that he has a chance, but he doesn't. Carson's done. And actually, Carson dropping out. There's a quote here. So there's an article on Vox about Carson dropping out, and if Carson dropped out, it would actually help Trump more than Rubio, or more than any other candidate except for Cruz. So this is the quote from Vox's article. MSNBC's second choice polling indicates that Carson voters' second choice is Cruz, who 24% would support if Carson dropped out, followed by Trump, who 22% would support if Carson exited the race. So Cruz only has 2 percentage points higher in terms of gaining Carson's support, and Carson's support is small at this point, so we're not talking about big numbers. But still, if Carson dropped out, it would really just set the race. It would really just put Rubio back. So Cruz and Trump would still be in similar positions, but Rubio might actually take a clear third position. And Kasich, I could see Kasich if Kasich dropped out, that I could see that helping Rubio, since Kasich is sort of the more mild-mannered of the choices, like Rubio is. But again, so really, either of those candidates dropping out, or if they both dropped out, Kasich and Carson, we would all be in the same place. It would still be the same top 3 choices. It would still be Trump up top and Cruz and Rubio fighting for second. So really, one of those 2 main guys, Rubio or Cruz, need to drop out for anything to really shake up what's happening with Trump. But I don't see that happening. So Trump is very likely going to be the Republican nominee, and I'm going to have so much fun covering this because it's so enjoyable to watch. That is, unless he wins. And then we're all left questioning what the hell's wrong with the world, and are we safe with Trump leading the most powerful country or on Earth? So I don't know. And the interesting part is that, actually, I'll get to this after. So I do want to get to Hillary. So Hillary won the Nevada caucus, or is it caucuses? I don't know. I'll just say the caucus. So Hillary won the Nevada caucus, and with a 6-point margin over Bernie. Not much, but a bigger lead than a lot of people had seen in polling. I think in polling she was up by 4 points, like 3 or 4 points. So yeah, I mean it is a blow to Bernie's momentum for sure, but it doesn't rule him out in terms of the Super Tuesday states and beyond. South Carolina at this point is all but decided. She's up. Hillary is up there right now by an average of 24 points. So, and that's polling as of I think 4 days ago. So it's very unlikely that Bernie's going to make that up. He may get closer, but yeah, South Carolina is a lost state for Bernie right now. But beyond that, I wrote some of this stuff down, or I didn't. Let me see. So nationally, the most recent national poll has Bernie beating Clinton by 3 points head to head. And that's a Fox News poll. Just putting that out there. But so, yes, Fox News has, crazy shit on TV. But in terms of their polling tends to be accurate, or at least in line with every other poll. So I wouldn't call that completely out of whack. But Clinton does have an average. She's up by an average of 5.6 points over the last 5 polls nationally against Sanders. So she still has a lead on average, but there is that momentum behind Sanders in terms of he's gained the entire year. Every time there's a new poll out, he gains. He gains every time. So really, it's a matter of people knowing who this guy is. If you don't know who Bernie Sanders is, you're not going to be inclined to vote for him. But if you actually get introduced to him, whether it's through an ad, whether it's online, the real issue here is older people who aren't on the internet all the time. Because he still leads by vast margins, even in Nevada. I think he was up by, it's like 80 or 70 points, or sorry, 70%. He got 70% of the younger vote or people under 40. So he still leads huge with younger people. But it's a matter of getting him out there in front of the older people who aren't online. And a lot of that is TV ads. A lot of that is the debates, the town halls. And it's also the message. So some people get scared of the term revolution, hearing about a political revolution. They don't want, they think back to revolutions of the past of violence and war, and that's not what Bernie's advocating for. It's a political revolution in terms of people becoming interested in the process and actually involving themselves in the process and pushing for the rights of the middle class and individuals above what's happening right now, which is corporations and billionaires having a lot of control over the system. So that message has resonated with obviously some older people, but Clinton still has that kind of tied up right now. So whether people continue to move to Sanders beyond just young people, it's remained to be seen. But Sanders was also hurt in Nevada by just a lower voter turnout. So they actually had 2/3 of the turnout that they had in, I believe, 2008. 2008, that would be the last one. So, because in 2012, obviously, it was just Obama, so there was no caucus. But in 2008, the turnout was much higher for Obama. So that's the issue that Sanders has right now. And unless voter turnout becomes larger, and that changes during this nomination process, Clinton may just end up being the nominee. And that could be an issue because she's actually, in terms of head-to-head polling, she lost to Ted Cruz in one of the polls. I couldn't believe that one. But Rubio is up on her, Kasich's way up on her. She does beat Donald Trump, but by like 1 or 2 points. Meanwhile, Sanders beats Trump by ranging from like 7 to 13 points. So Sanders has a much better margin in terms of national polling. Obviously, none of this stuff is an exact science. National polling, right now, we're talking about an election that's almost a year away. But when you're facing somebody like Donald Trump, who, or really any Republican nominee who can do a lot of potential damage to the country, is it worth taking that chance on a candidate who does worse in every head-to-head poll than Sanders does against these guys? I don't think it is. But the real issue with Clinton is will she bring out a lot of Democrats to vote for her in an election? And that's not clear. And I mean, to be fair, Sanders isn't bringing out the numbers that he needs to either for Democrats. So really, it's a toss-up right now. I would feel more comfortable with Sanders in a general election than I would Clinton. Clinton also has just stupid scandals that the Republicans enjoy pushing, and some of them that may actually be damaging, such as the emails. The email scandal, which at the start didn't seem like it was going to be that big of a thing, now it may end up being something. So it's really hard to know. And not just that, but also if Clinton's up against Trump, we're talking about an establishment politician up against a guy who's fighting the system. And that really is what is most scary about that matchup. Because you have somebody who can clearly say, look, she's bought. She did these paid speeches. She takes all this money from Wall Street. Why do you want the same politician who's been in the pocket of these people her whole entire career, instead of me, Trump, who I want to change things. I want I'm not bought by people. I'm self-funded. That is a huge argument for a lot of people, and that huge argument is really what drives a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters as well. But do I feel Bernie supporters would go to Trump? No. There is that fringe there, those independents who do swing between Bernie and Trump, but I feel like that's a minority of people. I mean, it's not hard to say Hillary would be a much better president than Donald Trump. But he does have that argument in terms of not being bought, and that can work really well for him in a general election. So, I don't know. I would love to see a Trump and Bernie matchup, simply because we have these two outsiders going head to head. Obviously, Bernie is not as much of an outsider as Trump is, but he's an outsider in the sense that he's been independent his entire career. He's pushed for the same issues his entire career, and he wants to fight back against the establishment and against especially money in politics, which controls a lot of what goes on in Washington and leads to a lot of the issues that they've seen, especially over the past 30 years as profits have gone to the top and the middle class have kind of been left in the cold. So that would be a very interesting matchup. Really, any of these matchups would be interesting. The most boring matchup, I think, would be Clinton and I guess Kasich. I was going to say Rubio, but Kasich is more standard. So Clinton Kasich, it would be a snooze fest. But Kasich, as I mentioned earlier, has a polling advantage right now over Clinton, and that is not good. He comes off as the more moderate Republican. When you look at his policies, he actually isn't really a moderate. But compared to what he's up against right now, and people like Trump and Cruz, Kasich seems very... he's somebody that I could see as being an electable politician for president. So that would be a scary matchup, a boring matchup, but a scary matchup because Clinton, I feel, could easily lose that. But let's look forward to Super Tuesday, because Super Tuesday has all these states. Let me just read this little quote here. So, Super Tuesday, March 1st, upcoming Tuesday. These are the states that are involved: Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, Virginia. They will all hold primaries for both parties. Alaska will hold its Republican caucus, while America Samoa will caucus for Democrats. Colorado will caucus for both parties, though only the Democrats are choosing a candidate. Republicans in Colorado have opted to select delegates only, and then let those delegates choose which candidates to support at the national convention. So, things are going to be a lot more clear after Super Tuesday. I'm going to make the prediction that Trump is going to clean house, except he'll lose Texas to Cruz. But otherwise, these are all Trump states. Yeah. I think Georgia might be a close one with Cruz, but no, these are Trump states. Trump's the nominee. Come on. This is less than a week away. Trump is way in the lead in the majority of these polls for these states, and yeah. And then after March 1st, I believe it's the March 15th is the next date. That's big for a lot of states. But I think after March 1st, it's going to be even more clear. And if Cruz wins Texas, which it looks like he will, he's going to stay in the race. If Rubio likely won't win any of these, but he's waiting for Florida, which is the next state, which I believe is the 15th. So, again, we're still going to have these three candidates. By this time, I hope Carson drops out, because I don't know why he's in it. Kasich may hold on. No, Kasich will drop out. He already admitted in a recent, I think he was at an interview or he was doing a town hall, and he said he's not necessarily running for president, which kind of begs the question, why are you still in this? But I think he's kind of aiming for the vice president card. But Trump's vice president, Kasich, I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know if Trump would ask him. Kasich is too, Kasich is too, I guess, moderate, kind of. Maybe. You know what? If Kasich is Trump's VP pick, that gives even more credence to the fact that Trump could beat Clinton in a general matchup. So, yeah, that would actually be a scary matchup. Or Trump and Rubio would also be scary. Trump won't choose Cruz because Cruz is just a whack job. Yeah, man, this may be closer than I originally thought it was going to be. Trump or Rubio, Trump and Kasich. If Trump chooses some other member of Congress who didn't run for presidential election, then I don't know. I could see not being as big. He did say that he wants to choose a political person as his VP. So I'm thinking he's going to choose somebody who ran in the election because it's people these are known quantities. People already know him. Having somebody who already has name recognition will help him. Not that he needs name recognition, but as a VP, if you want somebody who has political experience and who is also known to people. So even someone like maybe Christie, though I don't know if Christie would take that Trump ticket. So I don't know. A lot of these guys, you could make the argument that they wouldn't take the offer, but out on the table, these guys just want power. Do I really think Christie would turn down a VP? Trump asking to be his VP? I honestly can't say he would. So I think he would take VP. I think all these guys would take VP. Because in their mind, they're thinking, so if Trump somehow stops becoming president, whatever happens, whether he's just too crazy, there's a coup, somehow he's taken out, I'm the president now. So a lot of these guys are looking at Trump like, here's this puppet that I can kind of control. And this is when I look back to George Bush and Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney is the top in that relationship. So George Bush, not a bright man, easily controlled. Dick Cheney, smart man, evil man, and a lot was done that Dick Cheney wanted done. So I can see a potential VP doing the same thing with Trump. Trump is somebody who can be easily swayed, as you've seen his positions kind of go from left to right. It really just takes the right person to convince them that whatever policy they want is the right policy. And that's kind of, now that I'm thinking about this out loud, that is what I'd be more scared about. Trump on his own is not as scary as Trump being the puppet for somebody else underneath him. So, I don't know. I mean, the one issue where obviously Trump is just fucking insane on is immigration. But do I really think he's going to round up 11 million people and deport them? No, you can't. You can't do that. Like you can't do that in the modern world. It's not going to work. So that's why I'm less scared about Trump, because I don't see him doing the more insane things that he says he's going to do. In terms of building a wall, maybe he could pull that one off, but getting Mexico to pay for it, I don't think so. So I don't know. But I really think a lot of people, a lot of Republicans would just be happy to have somebody in the White House who they know isn't bought and who was elected on the basis of being a president for the people. Though it could be argued which people he's being president for are not the people you want dictating who the president is. But, you know. So one last thing before I get the hell out of here. Supreme Court update. So this news just broke about an hour ago. So the White House is vetting Republican Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval for Supreme Court. This is what I talk about. This is what I mean when I say Democrats are weak. Obama should not even be considering a Republican for the Supreme Court. The only reason he is because Congress won't listen to him otherwise. But that doesn't mean you just give in to every fucking thing they want all the goddamn time. Like giving into healthcare. There's all these issues that Obama campaigned on and then was pulled to the right on when he was in office because Republicans wouldn't work with him. And this is just another one in his last year doing it again. If he really nominates a Republican governor to Supreme Court, it's going to go through. I don't think Republicans would take the chance that they may lose the presidential election and then have somebody more liberal, I would hope, nominated after Clinton or Sanders would nominate. But yeah, so this is a little. So I looked him up just to get an idea of who he is. He is considered a moderate Republican, but come on, moderate Republicans now are right-wing extremists. There is no moderate Republicans. I mean, there is moderate Republicans in the sense that what moderate is now, but what moderate used to mean is not what moderate means now. Moderate now is right-wing extremist 20 years ago. So, but let me just go over, and I was fair with some of these points. I pulled out some of his more, I guess, liberal positions as well. So this Brian Sandoval, support civil unions but not gay marriage. Renewables like solar and geothermal are big opportunity, so that's a positive. He does see solar or alternative energies as a good thing. Supports lawsuits against Obama healthcare bill. So again, this would be Obama nominating him, but he was against Obamacare, so I don't get it. Opposes government-run healthcare. Again, another Obama thing. On immigration, he opposes amnesty. So he's another right-wing position. This one on amnesty. And the last one I made here. This is just something I care about. Drive investment in broadband technology. So he is for expanding the internet across the state. But this is not the guy you want replacing Scalia. You need to swing the Supreme Court at this point left, because it's been right for so long, and it's really been an issue for a lot of these. Excuse me. It's been an issue, and it doesn't make sense for Obama to give in this way. He has to have some fight in him, and I would just hold out, and you know what? If you can't nominate somebody, then, well, okay, let me think this through. This is what I would do. If it was Sanders and Trump, so probably by July we would know for sure, or June we would know for sure who it is. If it's Sanders and Trump, fuck it, hold out. Sanders is going to win. Sanders will choose the next Supreme Court justice. If it's Clinton and Rubio, I guess, I don't know. He's in a hard spot. If you give in, you're giving in to a guy who's a moderate, but or a moderate Republican. But if you don't give in, then the chance that a Republican gets the White House is there. I do think it's still a small chance that that's going to happen. I just don't. After keeping Obama in office twice, or electing him once and then keeping him in office the second time, I have a hard time imagining the U.S. going back to a position of being against gay marriage, being against pro-choice, and just a lot of these social positions that are now in question because a Republican can take the White House and then elect someone more extreme to the Supreme Court. So I don't know. This is the issue in in American politics. These guys they're all fucking bought. They don't speak for people. The majority of people are for gay marriage. They're for pro-choice. These are very extreme positions that Republicans have taken on. And Bernie is kind of attempting to bring that more back to a proper discussion on the left. But there's no comparison on the left to someone like Cruz on the right. And some people will say, oh, but Bernie Sanders, he's very socialist, very leftist. On the world stage, Bernie is not that much of a leftist. Bernie is a regular politician, a regular liberal politician in the majority of countries, the majority of the developed world, or at least democracies. But Cruz, you want to find someone like Cruz in another country, you're looking at countries based on religion. You're looking at like Saudi Arabia. So we're not talking about, there is no equal in the Democratic Party to someone like Cruz on the right. So this is what the country's kind of facing it right now. And if we hit this election and it ends up being a right-wing extremist, then hold on for 4 years, because who the fuck knows what's going to happen. Luckily, I don't live in your fucking country. I live in Canada. I'm quite good. But you don't know what kind of power or what can happen when someone new becomes the president. The United States is the most powerful country in the world. It just is. And the military has a lot to do with that. So if you have someone insane in there, then there's a lot to worry about. That said, Trump, at least on military, is not as insane as someone like Rubio, or some could even argue he's not as insane as Clinton is. Though Clinton obviously is way more educated on foreign policy than Trump. But in terms of military intervention, I mean, Trump was against the Iraq War. Yes, there's that quote of him saying, yeah, I guess I'm kind of for the war. But I'll let that one pass, because he didn't seem very gung-ho about it. It was before he was really ever discussing politics. And then he kind of came out strongly against the Iraq War. So, I don't know. The only person I want to see as president in this long list of whack jobs is Sanders, because he's the only non-whack job. And way down the list on the second is Clinton. But by comparison, there is no comparison. Bernie is, by and large, far and away the best choice. And then way down, Clinton. And then I don't think there's a third. Trump is the best of the worst, but he's still the worst. And then, yeah, I don't know. I'm getting scared now. When this began, I thought there was no chance a Republican was going to get in. And I still don't think it's likely, but it's possible. And it's very possible if you have Trump going up against someone like, or against Hillary Clinton, because she is controlled by moneyed interest, and that is a lot of why Trump is popular. So we'll see where this goes. Thank you for joining me, and until next week, goodbye. Thank you to Renee Viss for providing the song Teenager Manager as our theme music. Follow us on Twitter at TRNShow, all one word, on Facebook.com/TRNShow, and watch us on YouTube.com/TheRationalNational. I'm David Dole. Thank you for listening.